Father drained my college fund to cover my brother's gambling losses. Mother claimed Max requires it more than you. Upon visiting the bank to shut my account, the manager drew me aside and murmured, "You must witness this." What unfolded next my parents never imagined. I remember it like it was yesterday. Standing in my childhood bedroom, hands trembling, staring at that beautiful acceptance letter from Columbia Medical School. Pure, unadulterated joy. My lifelong dream, finally within reach. But then my parents walked in, their faces grim, and in a single, gut-wrenching breath, my dad cleared his throat and said, "We need to talk about your college fund. I've emptied it to pay Max's gambling debts." My mom, trying to soften the blow, touched my shoulder and murmured, "Family comes first, sweetie. Max needs this more than you need medical school." My entire world didn't just crumble in that moment, it exploded into a million pieces. My future? Gone. Just like that. The next 3 days? A blur. I just couldn't wrap my head around what they'd done. Our house, my home, suddenly felt like a tomb of betrayal. Mom would hum in the kitchen, casually asking if I wanted eggs, like she hadn't just incinerated my future. I wanted to scream. How could she stand there, pretending everything was normal, when they'd just taken $180,000 that belonged to me and handed it to my brother? My voice was flat when I said, "I'm not hungry." Every penny of that money was blood, sweat, and tears. Since I turned 16, I juggled 3 jobs, 5:30 a.m. at the coffee shop, tutoring evenings, weekends at a medical clinic, soaking up every bit of knowledge I could. Every paycheck, every birthday card from relatives, every academic scholarship, it all went into that account. And then, there was Grandma Eleanor. Her $50,000 contribution, the biggest chunk, left specifically for my education. I still remember her holding my hand in the hospital, her voice weak but firm, making me promise to become the doctor she knew I could be. "Your future matters, sweet girl," she'd whispered. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Those words echoed in my head, a painful contrast to my current reality. A familiar, infuriating beeping pulled me from my thoughts. Max, my 28-year-old brother, sprawled in Dad's recliner, controller in hand, surrounded by empty soda cans. "Oh, hey, sis," he mumbled, eyes glued to the screen. "Mom's making pancakes later." That casualness. That audacity. Something snapped. "Are you serious right now?" He finally paused the game, looked at me. "What? What?" I bit back. "You stole my entire future and you're asking me what?" He rolled his eyes, unpausing the game. "God, you're so dramatic. It's not like you can't apply for loans or something." "Loans?" My voice cracked. "Do you have any idea how many 16-hour days I put in for that money?" He deflected. "Look, I didn't ask Dad to raid your college fund, okay? He made that choice. Because of your gambling debts." I shot back. "How much did you lose, Max? How much was my future worth to you?" He shifted, uncomfortable, but kept playing. "It's complicated." "No, it wasn't." "It's a number." "How much?" Then Mom appeared, dish towel in hand. "Almeida, please. Your brother's been through enough." "He's been through enough?" I whirled on her. "What about what I'm going through?" She stammered about the people he owed, and threats. So, they sacrificed my education, my dream, to save him from his own choices. Dad emerged from the garage, avoiding eye contact. "That's enough, Almeida." The authoritative tone he'd always used, the one I'd always respected. "Not anymore." "No, Dad, it's not enough. I want to know everything. How many times have you bailed him out before this?" They exchanged a look, a silent confession. This wasn't the first time. Not even close. "How many times?" I pressed. Mom sank into a chair, suddenly looking years older. "A few times," Dad admitted. 4. This was the 5th. "And the total?" Silence, until Max mumbled, "About 300 grand over the past 6 years." My legs felt weak. $300,000. They'd been bleeding money to save Max, while I worked myself to exhaustion for every single penny. But this time was different. Max piped up, as if that excused anything. This time I was in real trouble. I had a system, see, for online poker and sports betting. It was working great until it wasn't. I cut him off. There's no system for gambling, you idiot. The house always wins. He argued back. You don't understand. I was up huge at one point, almost $500,000. I could have paid everyone back. But you didn't stop, I stated flatly. He insisted he was going to. Just needed one more big win. Dad stepped in, grim. The people he owed weren't patient anymore. They showed up at his apartment. Then they found out where we lived. My mom, tears streaming, added, we gave them what we had to keep our family safe. My entire college fund. $180,000. Gone. We'll figure something out, Dad promised, talking about payment plans for medical school. I scoffed. Columbia doesn't do payment plans, Dad. You either have the money or you don't. And thanks to you, I don't. As I turned to leave, Max's voice, full of venom, stopped me. You know what your problem is, Almeida? You think you're better than everyone. Acting all high and mighty because you got into some fancy school. I just stared at him. No, Max. I don't think I'm better. I just think I deserve what I earned. He echoed Mom's earlier words. Family comes first, isn't that what we were always taught? My reply was icy. Family doesn't steal from family. I retreated to my room, listening to Mom sobbing, Dad trying to comfort her. They were acting like they were the victims. I slammed my door, pulled out my laptop, and started researching student loans. The numbers made me physically sick. $400,000 in debt, even for the maximum amount. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, my best friend since middle school. How did the parents take the news about Columbia? Bet they're super proud. I just stared at it, numb. How could I explain that my parents had just guaranteed I'd never make it there at all? Another text came through. Hello? Earth to Almeida? You're killing me with the suspense. I typed back slowly. Can I stay with you for a few days? I'll explain everything. Her immediate response. Of course. What's wrong? What was wrong? Everything. My brother was a remorseless gambling addict. My parents were enablers who chose him over me. And I was the fool who trusted them with my future. I looked at that acceptance letter again, running my fingers over the Columbia letterhead. All those years, all those sacrifices, gone. Because my brother couldn't walk away from a poker table. The worst part was looking around my room, the medical textbooks, the stethoscope Grandma Eleanor gave me for my 21st birthday, the vision board. My entire identity was wrapped up in this dream, and my family had sold it off like it meant nothing. Later that night, a soft knock on my door. It was Dad, holding a manila folder. He looked as broken as I felt. Documents from the bank, he mumbled. Thought you should see what we were dealing with. I took the folder, my hands shaking. Withdrawal slips, transfer authorizations, and my signature on every single one. My blood ran cold. Dad, I said slowly. These have my signature on them. But I never signed these. He couldn't meet my eyes. The bank required dual authorization for withdrawals over $10,000. I had no choice. He'd forged my signature. Committed fraud against his own daughter. I was protecting the family, he insisted. I handed the folder back, my voice flat. No, Dad. You were protecting Max. And you made me collateral damage. He walked away, shoulders slumped. In that moment, a decision crystallized. I wasn't waiting until tomorrow. Something felt deeply wrong here, not just morally, but factually. Max said $180,000, but these documents, they looked like more. I grabbed my coat and keys. Screw waiting. I was going to the bank right now. As I passed through the living room, I froze. Max was on the phone, his voice low, urgent. No, I told you I got you the money. My family came through. Yeah, the full amount. Then a beat. What do you mean it's not enough? We had a deal. He spotted me, quickly ending the call. Private conversation, he muttered. Who was that? I asked. Nobody. Business stuff. Business? He hadn't had a job in 2 years. You don't know everything about my life, Almeida. I shot back. Apparently, I don't know anything about anyone in this family. I left him there, with his video games and his secrets. But his words haunted me. It's not enough. My family had given him everything I had. What else was he lying about? I sped to the bank, praying I'd make it before closing. Patricia Holbrook's car was still in the lot. Mrs. Holbrook. She'd been our family banker for 15 years, helped me open my first savings account, taught me about financial literacy. If anyone could help me, it was her. I just hoped she'd tell me the truth. Because I had a terrifying feeling this was just the tip of a very dark iceberg. The First National Bank of Chicago stood there, just like it always had. But today, it felt alien. I wasn't here to deposit my hard-earned money. I was here to close my account and salvage what little dignity I had left. The security guard, Robert, greeted me. Almeida! How's medical school planning going? A knife to the gut, but I managed a weak smile. It's complicated. If only you knew, I thought. Then Mrs. Holbrook emerged from her office. Silver-haired, elegant, with those sharp blue eyes that missed absolutely nothing. Almeida, is that you? Come to my office, dear. You look like you need to sit down. In her warm, trustworthy office, she offered me tea. No, thank you, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm actually here to close my account. Her hand paused. Close it? But your father mentioned you got into Colombia when he was here last week. Yes, well, circumstances have changed. She leaned forward. Almeida, I've known you since you were 10. I watched you save for 12 years. What's really going on? My father told you he made the withdrawals. She nodded slowly. Yes, he did. All $217,000 worth. My breath hitched. $217,000? He'd told me $180,000. Her expression darkened. I see. That's concerning. But there's more. She quickly typed on her computer. When your father came in, something struck me as odd. You specifically set up your account to require dual signatures for any withdrawal over $10,000. Remember? Of course. You suggested it. Exactly. Yet your father had documentation with your signature authorizing these transfers. My throat went bone dry. He forged them. Patricia's voice dropped. I suspected as much. Which is why I meticulously documented everything and activated our security protocols. She turned her monitor. My signature stared back at me. Good forgeries, but not perfect. A slight wobble here, a hesitant curve there. I couldn't refuse the transactions with the documentation he provided, she explained. But I could ensure everything was recorded. So you knew he was stealing from me, and did nothing? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I did something, Almeida. I followed federal banking regulations to the letter, including the requirement to report suspicious activity. My heart skipped a beat. You reported it? Not yet. I wanted to speak with you first. But there's something else you need to see. She pulled up security footage. Last Tuesday, 2:15 p.m. My dad, entering the bank. But he wasn't alone. Max was with him. And a third man I didn't recognize, tall, broad-shouldered, expensive suit. Who's that? I asked. Patricia's voice lowered. That's Vincent Torino. In banking, we call him a person of interest. He's suspected of running illegal lending operations. Loan sharking, to be blunt. Federal alerts on him for 3 years. I stared at the grainy footage. Dad was nervous, wiping his forehead. Max kept glancing at the exits. Torino, though, was calm, like he owned the place. They weren't paying off gambling debts to some casino, I said, the realization dawning on me. They were paying a loan shark. That would be my assessment, Patricia confirmed. And Mr. Torino's presence? Your brother was in significant danger. But why a loan shark if Max was gambling online? Patricia pulled up another set of documents, transfer destinations for my funds. Offshore accounts, cryptocurrency exchanges, untraceable wire services. This is sophisticated, she noted. Not typical for covering gambling losses. My voice was grim. This looks more like money laundering. She nodded. I can't make that accusation officially, but the pattern is concerning. Max's phone call suddenly made sickening sense. It wasn't enough. What should I do? I asked, fear twisting in my gut. First, I'm required by law to file a suspicious activity report. The forgery alone mandates it. With Mr. Torino and these transfers, I have no choice. Federal investigators will be looking into this within 72 hours. Your father will likely face charges for forgery. Your brother's activities will be scrutinized. Your family's assets may be frozen. All of them? My parents' retirement? Yes, she said softly. If they believe the accounts are connected to criminal activity, she added. Your father was trying to protect Max. But the law doesn't make exceptions for good intentions. Fraud is a federal crime. She handed me a business card. Special Agent Diana Morrison, Financial Crimes Division. She's thorough but fair. My fingers felt numb. Will I get any of my money back? Depends on the investigation. If transfers are proven fraudulent, maybe. But if it's already dispersed through offshore accounts, it's most likely gone. Then, a ray of hope. Almeida, there's one more thing. Your grandmother's contribution, the $50,000. It came with specific legal stipulations. Remember her will? I forced my brain to focus. For education only. More than that. She established it as an irrevocable educational trust, with you as the sole beneficiary. Your parents had no legal right to touch that money, forgery or not. Hope flickered. So I could recover at least the $50,000? Potentially more. The trust included provisions for damages if the funds were misappropriated. You need an estate attorney, but you might have grounds for the full amount, plus penalties. Why didn't the bank protect those funds separately? I asked. Your father presented himself as the trustee when he consolidated the accounts 5 years ago. Another forgery, I now realize. I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. Is there anything in my life he didn't forge? I'm sorry, Almeida, Patricia said, placing a maternal hand on my shoulder. I know this isn't what you wanted to hear. No, I said. I'm glad you told me. At least now I know the full scope. She encouraged me. You're a brilliant young woman. Don't let this derail your dreams. How can I not? I asked, despair creeping in. Medical school starts in 3 months, and I have $17 to my name. She corrected me softly. $17 and the truth. That's more than your family has right now. As I left, she called out. Almeida, when the investigators contact you, and they will, tell them everything. Don't try to protect your family. They made their choices, and now there are consequences. I left the bank, a strange mix of vindication and pure terror. The security tapes, the forged documents, Torino, this was far worse than gambling debts. My family wasn't just in financial trouble. They were in legal trouble. Criminal trouble. Sitting in my car, staring at Agent Morrison's business card, my phone rang. Mom. Where are you? Her voice was frantic. Max just got a call. Those people want more money. They're saying the payment wasn't enough. I'm at the bank, Mom, I said, my voice cold. And we have bigger problems than whatever Max owes. Dad's forgeries were documented. The bank is filing federal reports. There's going to be an investigation. Silence. Then, her furious whisper. You talked to them about this? How could you betray your family like that? I didn't betray anyone. Dad did, when he stole my future. We're your parents. We fed you, clothed you, sheltered you for 22 years, and this is how you repay us? By expecting you not to steal from me? Yes, Mom. That's exactly how I repay you. She hung up. I sat there for 10 minutes, watching the Chicago sunset. Somewhere, Max was making deals with dangerous people, using my dreams as currency. My parents were probably huddled together, figuring out how to blame me for the tsunami about to hit them. And I was holding a federal agent's business card. But Patricia was right. I had $17 and the truth. And sometimes, that's all you need to start fighting back. Pulling out of that bank parking lot, a strange calm settled over me. Let the investigation come. Let them uncover every single forgery, every lie, every betrayal. I was done protecting people who never protected me. I made a mental list: find a lawyer for educational trusts, cooperate fully with the feds, apply for every scholarship and loan, and most importantly, stop believing family comes first. But my family had proven I came last. My phone buzzed, another call from home. I let it go to voicemail. Whatever crisis they were manufacturing now, it wasn't my problem. I had my own future to salvage, and if I had to build it from $17 and the ashes of their crimes, then that's exactly what I'd do. I'd been staying at Rachel's apartment for 3 days, trying to process it all. Her pull-out couch wasn't exactly comfortable, but it was miles better than being under the same roof as my parents. I was submitting emergency scholarship applications online when Rachel burst through the door, wide-eyed. Almeida! There are federal agents at your parents' house. My mom just drove by and saw 3 black SUVs. My heart hammered. Despite everything, they were still my family. I have to go. I grabbed my keys. Are you insane? Rachel yelled. Your dad just committed fraud. I can't let them face this alone. They let you face losing your future alone, she countered. She was right. But the image of my mother's terrified face. I'll be careful, I promised. The 15-minute drive felt like an eternity. Black government vehicles lined our street, neighbors openly gawking. Mrs. Chen from next door caught my eye, then quickly looked away. By morning, everyone would know the Reynolds family was under federal investigation. I walked up the driveway on shaking legs. The front door was open, voices echoing from inside. I'm telling you, I acted alone. My father's voice, strained and desperate. My wife had nothing to do with this. A woman's crisp voice responded. Mr. Reynolds, we have evidence suggesting otherwise. Lying to federal agents is a crime unto itself. I stepped inside. My family huddled at the dining table. 3 agents in dark suits stood around them. One, a woman in her 40s with sharp features, looked directly at me. You must be Almeida, she said. Special Agent Diana Morrison, Financial Crimes Division. Patricia's contact. The investigation had moved even faster than predicted. I am, I confirmed, trying to keep my voice steady. Good. We have questions for you as well. My mother looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. Almeida, tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them we're a good family. Agent Morrison gestured to a chair. Please sit. We were just discussing the forged signatures on your account withdrawals. I sat down, avoiding my father's pleading gaze. What do you need to know? Did you authorize your father to withdraw $217,000 from your education savings? No. I only learned about it after it was gone. Max chimed in. She's lying. She probably forgot she signed those papers. Morrison's partner, a younger man with kind eyes, slid a document across the table. Mr. Reynolds, are you suggesting your sister signed this authorization on March 15th, when credit card records show she was in Wisconsin for an academic conference? Max's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I'd forgotten about that conference on molecular biology. 4 days in Madison, paid for by a research grant. Maybe I got the dates mixed up, Max stammered. You seem to mix up a lot of things, Morrison observed coolly. She pulled out a tablet. Like your employment history. You told your family you lost your job at Henderson Financial 2 years ago due to downsizing. That's right, Max said, sweat beading on his forehead. Interesting, because Henderson Financial's HR department says you were terminated for suspicion of insider trading. They filed reports with the SEC. My mother gasped. Max, is that true? He muttered. They couldn't prove anything. No, Morrison continued. But the investigation did uncover your gambling problem. Which is how you ended up owing money to Vincent Torino. At the mention of that name, my father went rigid. We paid him every penny he was owed. Did you? Morrison's tone suggested she knew otherwise. Because Mr. Torino's associates seem to think your son still owes them quite a bit. In fact, they're under the impression Max has been selling them something other than money. I don't know what you're talking about, Max insisted. The third agent, silent until now, placed the laptop on the table and turned it toward us. Then perhaps you can explain these communications from your encrypted messaging app. The screen showed conversation threads, VT money, Torino collects. But it was the content that made my blood run cold. Package delivered, names and socials as requested. One message from Max read. Got 12 more from the company database. Same price as before. You were selling personal information. I breathed, horror washing over me. From Henderson Financial's clients. Privileged financial records. Agent Morrison clarified. Social security numbers, bank accounts, investment portfolios. Perfect for identity theft and financial fraud. My mother started sobbing. Max! How could you? He exploded, slamming his fist on the table. I had no choice. They were going to kill me. Do you understand that? Actually kill me. So you gave them the tools to destroy other people's lives instead? I asked. Don't act so righteous, Almeida. You have no idea what I've been dealing with. Then enlighten us, Morrison said coolly. Start from the beginning. Max looked at Dad, who gave a slight nod. With a heavy sigh, my brother began his confession. It started 3 years ago. I was doing well at Henderson, but I wanted more. Faster cars, better apartments, the whole lifestyle. Sports betting seemed like easy money at first. The younger agent murmured. It always does. I had a system, Max insisted, that familiar delusion creeping back into his voice. Statistical analysis, probability matrices. For a while it worked. I was up big. Really big. How much? Morrison asked. Almost $500,000 at one point. I wanted to scream. He'd had enough to pay for my medical school twice over. But you didn't stop, Morrison prompted. I was going to. I just needed one more big score. There was this sure thing, insider information about a game. Morrison finished. Which was a setup. Torino's people fed you false information to hook you deeper. Max nodded miserably. Lost everything in one weekend. When I couldn't pay, they offered me a deal, information from Henderson's databases in exchange for reducing my debt. Which is why you really lost your job, I said. They caught you accessing files you shouldn't have. Max admitted. I was careful, but not careful enough. Agent Morrison leaned forward. How much information did you steal, Max? I don't know. Hundreds of profiles, maybe more. The quiet agent corrected him. Try thousands. We've been tracking the identity theft ring connected to Torino for 18 months. Your data contributed to over $3 million in fraudulent activities. The number hung in the air like a toxic cloud. My mother had stopped crying, staring at Max like she'd never seen him before. My father sat with his head in his hands. But I stopped, Max said weakly. When I lost the job, I stopped giving them information. No, you just found new ways to pay, Morrison said, pulling up more bank records. Like convincing your father to take out a second mortgage, telling him it was for gambling debts, when really Torino was blackmailing you about the stolen data. Another piece clicked into place. That's why Dad was so desperate. He wasn't just protecting Max from physical harm, he was protecting him from federal prosecution. Bingo, Morrison said. Though I'm afraid that ship has sailed. She stood, her partners following suit. Maxwell Reynolds, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, identity theft, and violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. No! My mother lunged forward, but the younger agent gently held her back. Mom, don't, I said. You'll only make it worse. As they cuffed Max, he looked at me, genuine fear in his eyes. Almeida, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did, I replied, my voice hard. Every time you chose to steal instead of stop. Every time you let Dad bail you out. Every time you picked your addiction over your family. They led him out in handcuffs, neighbors openly staring and photographing. My mother collapsed into my father's arms, but he was looking at Agent Morrison. What about the house? He asked. The mortgage? That depends on your cooperation, Morrison replied. The forged signatures alone could result in serious charges. But if you're willing to testify about your son's activities and your interactions with Torino, I'll do whatever you need, my father said quickly. Just please, my wife wasn't involved. Morrison studied them both. We'll need to verify that. In the meantime, your assets will be frozen pending investigation. That includes all bank accounts, retirement funds, and yes, the house may be subject to seizure if we find it was used as collateral in criminal enterprises. My mother whispered. Where will we live? That's something you'll need to figure out, Morrison said. I suggest finding a lawyer. A good one. As the agents prepared to leave, Morrison handed me a card. We'll need your full statement tomorrow, 9 a.m. at the Federal Building. I'll be there. She paused at the door. Your banker, Patricia Holbrook, spoke highly of you. Said you were the only honest one in the family. I don't feel honest, I said, exhausted. I feel like I should have seen this coming. Victims often blame themselves. Don't. Your brother made his choices, and your parents made theirs. The only choice you're responsible for is your own. After they left, the house felt hollow. My parents sat at the table like broken dolls. The neighbors had retreated, but the damage was done. By morning, everyone would know the Reynolds family harbored a criminal. This is your fault, my mother said quietly, not looking at me. My fault? If I hadn't gone to the bank? If I hadn't talked to them? Mom, Max was selling stolen identities. Dad committed fraud. How was any of that my fault? We could have handled it as a family, she insisted. Like you've handled everything else? I scoffed. By covering it up and enabling Max? My father finally spoke, his voice hoarse. She's right, Helen. We created this mess. Don't you dare take her side, my mother cried. There are no sides here, I said, the exhaustion overwhelming me. There's just the truth. And the truth is, you chose Max over everything else. Over me, over your retirement, over your home. And he played you for fools. He's our son, my mother insisted. And I'm your daughter, I shot back. But that never seemed to matter as much. I stood to leave, but my father caught my hand. Almeida, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am so deeply sorry. I looked at his weathered face. The man who taught me to ride a bike, helped with science projects. The man who had also stolen my future without hesitation. I know you are, Dad. But sorry doesn't get me into medical school. As I drove back to Rachel's apartment, my phone buzzed with messages. Word was already spreading. Former classmates, extended family, everyone wanting to know how the responsible Reynolds kid could have a criminal for a brother. But one message stood out, from an unknown number. Miss Reynolds, my name is Jonathan Sterling. I'm a forensic accountant who specializes in recovering assets from financial crimes. I believe I can help you reclaim what was stolen. Call me. I pulled over, staring at the message. After today, I should have been suspicious of strangers offering help. But what did I have to lose? My family was shattered. My brother was in federal custody. My parents would likely lose everything. Maybe it was time to stop playing defense and start fighting back. I saved the number. Tomorrow, I'd give my statement to the federal agents. But tonight, I'd call Jonathan Sterling. Because Agent Morrison was right about one thing. The only choice I was responsible for was my own. And I chose to fight. 2 weeks crawled by after Max's arrest. My parents' house now stood empty. A for sale sign plunged into the yellowing lawn. They'd moved into a cramped apartment, their assets frozen. I hadn't spoken to them since that horrible night. I sat in a downtown coffee shop, nervously checking my phone. Jonathan Sterling. I'd spent the morning researching him, former federal prosecutor, now a forensic accountant specializing in asset recovery. Impressive, yes, but after everything, trusting anyone felt dangerous. Almeida Reynolds? I looked up. A man in his early 40s, salt and pepper hair, intelligent brown eyes. Well-tailored suit, but no arrogance. Mr. Sterling? Jonathan, please. He sat, declining coffee. Thank you for meeting me. I know this must be a difficult time. That's an understatement, I said. He pulled out a leather portfolio. I'll be direct. I've been investigating Vincent Torino's organization for 2 years. Your brother's case intersects with my investigation in significant ways. Why would a forensic accountant investigate a loan shark? I asked. Because Torino isn't just a loan shark. He's built a sophisticated financial crime network, identity theft, money laundering, crypto fraud. Your brother was one small piece of a much larger operation. I leaned forward. And you think you can help me recover my money? I think we can help each other. He opened the portfolio, revealing documents I recognized, along with some I'd never seen. Your grandmother, Eleanor Matthews, was a shrewd woman, he said. When she established your educational trust, she included very specific legal protections. He showed me a document, Irrevocable Educational Trust. Grandma's signature, notarized. This trust wasn't just a gift, Jonathan explained. It was a legally binding entity, with you as the sole beneficiary. Your parents had no authority to access these funds. Patricia had hinted at this. But Dad said he was the trustee. He lied. The trustee is actually a law firm, Matthews and Associates. Your grandmother's maiden name, not coincidentally. My heart raced. So Grandma's $50,000 was protected. But there's more, he continued, pulling out another document. A provision your grandmother included: if anyone attempted to misappropriate the trust funds, they would owe triple damages plus interest. Triple? $150,000, plus 2 years of interest. We were looking at approximately $170,000 just from that. My parents didn't have that kind of money anymore. No, but their homeowner's insurance does. Fraud is often covered under personal liability policies. Plus, there's another avenue. He showed me a newspaper clipping, Henderson Financial, Max's former employer. They failed to properly secure their client data. They knew Max had gambling problems, suspicious financial activity. Yet they allowed him continued access to sensitive databases. That's negligence. You think they'd be liable? I've seen settlements for far less egregious security failures. But I need inside knowledge about their systems, their security protocols. Information you might have gleaned from Max over the years. I thought back to all those family dinners where Max bragged about his job, the access he had. I might remember some things. But why are you doing this? I asked cautiously. What's in it for you? Jonathan leaned back, a slight smile playing on his lips. Fair question. I work on contingency for cases like yours. I take 30% of what we recover. But more importantly, your case could be the key to unraveling Torino's entire operation. Your brother kept records, meticulous ones, according to the federal investigation. Messages, transactions, names of other Henderson employees who might have been compromised. With your help, I can trace money flows, identify other victims, and build a comprehensive case. The feds are already doing that. The feds are building a criminal case. I'm building a financial one. Criminal convictions are satisfying, but they don't get victims their money back. Civil actions do. I considered his words. What would you need from me? Access to any family financial documents you can legally obtain. Your memories of Max's work discussions, cooperation, and depositions. And most importantly, your grandmother's original trust documents, which I believe are stored at her attorney's office. How do you know that? Because I called them this morning. He smiled at my surprise. I don't approach potential clients unprepared. Matthews and Associates confirmed they have the originals and are willing to pursue action against your parents for breach of fiduciary duty. My parents could go to jail. Your father possibly. Forgery charges are serious. But if he cooperates fully and agrees to restitution, he might avoid imprisonment. Your mother appears to have been genuinely ignorant of the specifics. We sat in silence. Outside, Chicago bustled. People hurrying to jobs, unaware that entire futures could be stolen by those they trusted most. There's something else, Jonathan said, his tone shifting. Torino's organization has been destabilized by the federal raids. They're scrambling, making mistakes. Your brother recorded conversations with them. Why would he do that? Insurance, probably. Criminals rarely trust each other. He pulled out a tablet, showing me a transcript the FBI recovered from Max's cloud storage. Max had been trying to build leverage, planning to blackmail them. I read Max's words, detailing meetings, threats, names of others involved. My brother, a criminal, but a meticulous one. This is evidence of racketeering, I said. Exactly. Which opens up RICO statutes. Triple damages again, but this time from Torino's assets. The FBI has frozen approximately $12 million in various accounts. Victims can claim portions of that. $217,000 could become $650,000? The number made me dizzy. Enough for medical school. Enough to rebuild everything. What about Max? I asked. If I help you, what happens to him? Jonathan's expression softened. Your brother is looking at significant prison time regardless. But cooperation could reduce his sentence from 20 years to perhaps 7 or 8. And he'd have to cooperate. His recordings are evidence, but testimony would strengthen the case immeasurably. I made my decision. I'll do it. I'll help you. You're sure? This won't be easy. You'll have to testify, possibly multiple times. Your family relationships may never recover. They're already destroyed, I said. At least this way, something good might come from the wreckage. Jonathan extended his hand. I shook it. Partners, then. First step, Matthews and Associates tomorrow. Can you make a 10 a.m. appointment? Yes. Good. Bring any documents you have, bank statements, scholarship letters, anything showing your pattern of saving. He stood, then paused. Almeida, what happened to you wasn't your fault. But what happens next? That's entirely in your control. After he left, I stayed in the coffee shop, staring at his business card. Jonathan Sterling, Forensic Accounting and Asset Recovery. On the back, he'd written a personal cell number. Call anytime. My phone buzzed. Rachel. How was the meeting? I typed back. I'm fighting back. Her immediate response. About damn time. That evening, I drove to my parents' old house. A lockbox on the door. Realtors were already showing it. I still had my key. In the basement, in a box labeled Almeida School Records, I found what I was looking for. Every bank deposit slip, every scholarship notification, every birthday card from Grandma Eleanor with checks and notes. Your future, sweet girl. At the very bottom, an unexpected envelope. In Grandma's elegant handwriting, for Almeida. Open only if needed. Inside, a letter dated a year before her death. My dearest Almeida, if you're reading this, something has gone wrong with the trust one established for you. I've watched your family dynamics for years. Seen how your parents favor Max, despite his problems. I pray I'm wrong, but I fear they might someday prioritize his needs over your dreams. Know this, I protected you as best I could. The trust has safeguards even I haven't told your parents about. The law firm has instructions to pursue anyone who tries to steal your future. You were the only one who visited me those last months, who cared about my stories and dreams. You have a healer's heart, but also a warrior's spirit. Don't let anyone, not even family, diminish your light. Fight for what's yours, sweet girl. I'll be watching over you. All my love, Grandma Eleanor. I sat on that cold basement floor and cried. Not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude. Even in death, she was protecting me. Tomorrow, I'd meet her lawyers. But tonight, I had one more task. I scrolled to Max's number in the Federal Detention Center. He was allowed one call a week, and he'd been trying to reach me. Maybe it was time to answer. Not to forgive, but to offer a deal. His cooperation for my support during his sentencing. Business, not family. Jonathan was right. What happened next was entirely in my control. And I was just getting started. 3 weeks later, I found myself in an FBI safe house, the air thick with stale coffee and tension. I was actually helping to take down the very people who had destroyed my family. Agent Diana Morrison sat across from me, her expression grave. Your brothers agreed to cooperate fully, she said. But we need your help to make this work. What kind of help? I asked, my heart sinking, knowing exactly what she meant. Jonathan, who had become my steadfast advocate, leaned forward. Max's recordings implicated several high-level members of Torino's organization, but they're incomplete. We need context, details only family members would know. You want me to talk to my brother? More than that, Morrison interjected. We need you to get your parents on board. They've been reluctant to fully cooperate, still trying to protect Max, even now. I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. Of course they are. Your mother's been visiting him weekly, Morrison continued. She might have information she doesn't realize is important. Conversations Max had at home, people he mentioned, timeline details. My phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. You okay? Haven't heard from you all day? I quickly typed back. In a meeting. Explain later. There's something else, Morrison said, pulling out a file. Torino's people have been asking questions about you. My blood ran cold. What kind of questions? Your daily routine, whether you've been in contact with law enforcement. She slid a photograph across the table. A man in a leather jacket, standing outside Rachel's apartment building. Recognize him? Anthony Torino. Vincent's nephew. He's been watching your friend's place for 3 days. Fear clawed up my spine. Is Rachel in danger? We don't believe so, Morrison assured me. They're interested in you specifically, in what you might know about Max's record-keeping. Jonathan placed a protective hand on my shoulder. This is why the FBI wants to accelerate the timeline. The longer this drags out, the more dangerous it becomes. What do you need me to do? I asked. Morrison outlined the plan. It sounded like something straight out of a crime movie. Max would wear a wire to his next meeting with his lawyer, who they suspected was feeding information to Torino. My parents would be brought in for family counseling, which was actually a detailed debriefing. And I would need to maintain my normal routine, but under federal protection. Absolutely not, I said instantly. I won't put Rachel at risk. We'll have agents watching the apartment, Morrison promised. That's not enough, I insisted. I should leave, find somewhere else to stay. That would signal you're aware of the surveillance, Jonathan interjected. Right now, they think you're just a naive college kid caught up in family drama. Let them keep thinking that, Morrison added. It's your best protection. That evening, I returned to Rachel's apartment, 2 undercover agents following at a distance. Rachel was making pasta, singing off-key to Taylor Swift, blissfully unaware of the danger I'd unknowingly brought to her doorstep. There you are, she said, waving a wooden spoon. I was starting to think you'd been abducted by accountants or something. I forced a smile, hating that I couldn't tell her the truth. We ate dinner, and she chatted about her marketing job, her new gym routine, Anything but the elephant in my life. As she cleared the dishes, my phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but Morrison's words echoed in my mind. We needed their cooperation. Thank God! My mother's voice was strained. I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy, I said coldly. Please, honey, your father, he's not doing well. The stress. His blood pressure is through the roof. The doctor says he needs to avoid additional strain. Then maybe he should have thought about that before committing fraud. I snapped. How can you be so cold? How can you be so cold? I retorted. You stole my future to enable Max's criminal activities. Sorry if I'm not overflowing with sympathy. She started crying. We just wanted to help him. You don't understand what it's like to watch your child spiral out of control. No, I said. But I understand what it's like to watch your parents choose that child over you, again and again. That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom. But I'm dealing with it. Silence stretched between us before her voice, smaller now, returned. The FBI wants to interview us again together this time. They say it's routine, but your father thinks they're trying to trap us into saying something incriminating. Maybe because you have incriminating things to say, I replied, my patience wearing thin. Almeida, please come with us. Having you there might help us remember things correctly. I almost refused. Then I remembered Morrison's plan. When? Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Federal Building. I'll be there. But Mom, this is the last favor I do for you. After this, we're done. Don't say that, honey. We're family. No. We were family. Now we're just people who share DNA and bad memories. I hung up before she could respond. Rachel A.P. Red in the doorway, concern etched on her face. That sounded intense. Family drama. What else is new? She studied me. There's something you're not telling me. I wanted to spill everything. The safe house, the surveillance, the danger I'd put her in. Instead, I shrugged. Just legal stuff. Boring paperwork. She clearly didn't believe me, but didn't push. Well, if you need to talk. I know. Thanks, Ratch. That night, I lay awake on that pull-out couch, listening to every sound. Was that footsteps in the hallway? Just neighbors? Was that car engine idling too long outside? Every noise felt like a threat. At 3 a.m., my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Your brother talks too much. My heart leaped into my throat. Another text followed. Families should stick together. Remember that. With shaking hands, I forwarded the messages to Morrison and Jonathan. Morrison replied within minutes. Stay put. Agents are watching. Do not engage. Sleep was impossible. I sat in the dark, clutching a kitchen knife I knew would be useless, waiting for dawn. The next afternoon, I met my parents at the Federal Building. They looked older, diminished. Dad's hands shook signing us in. Mom clutched her purse like a lifeline. Thank you for coming, she whispered in the elevator. I didn't respond. The interview room was sterile, intimidating. Recording equipment on the table. Morrison was there, along with another agent and a court reporter. This conversation is being recorded, Morrison began. You're not under arrest, but you are expected to tell the truth. Lying to federal agents is a crime. Do you understand? My parents nodded, terrified. Good. Let's start with Max's gambling. When did you first become aware of it? What followed was 2 hours of agonizing, painful revelations. My parents admitted knowing about Max's problems for over 5 years. They'd paid off smaller debts dozens of times, always believing his promises to quit. They'd hidden it from me, ashamed, hoping to protect the family image. Tell me about Vincent Torino, Morrison pressed. When did Max first mention him? About 8 months ago, my father said, his voice barely a whisper. Max came home beaten up, black eyes, split lip. Said he owed money to dangerous people. Did he mention specific names? Vincent. Anthony. Someone called the banker who handled the money. Morrison and the other agent exchanged glances. Did Max ever mention keeping records of his dealings with these people? My mother shifted uncomfortably. He said something once about insurance, that he was protecting himself. How? I don't know. He was drunk, rambling about how they'd never hurt him because he had dirt on them. When was this? Maybe 6 weeks ago, right before. She glanced at me. Before we took the money. Did he say where he kept these records? No. Mom hesitated. But, Morrison prompted. But what? He was paranoid about his laptop. Wouldn't let anyone near it. Even installed new locks on his bedroom door. More questions followed, each answer painting a clearer, more horrifying picture of Max's descent into criminality. By the end, my parents looked utterly defeated. As we prepared to leave, Morrison pulled me aside. You did good getting them here. Their testimony helps establish timeline and pattern of behavior. What happens now? I asked. Max meets with his lawyer tomorrow. If our suspicions are correct, that meeting will tell us who's leaking information to Torino. If it doesn't, then we go to Plan B. She didn't elaborate. Outside, my parents hovered uncertainly. Almeida. My father started. No. I cut him off. I did what you asked? We're done here. Please, just let us explain, he pleaded. Explain what? How you chose Max over me? How you stole my future? How you're still, even now, more worried about him than the daughter you betrayed? I understand perfectly. I walked away, ignoring my mother's sobs, my father's calls. But as I reached the corner, I spotted him. Anthony Torino, leaning against a building, watching me. He didn't try to hide. Instead, he smiled. And gave a small, chilling wave. The message was clear: we know who you are. We know where to find you. I kept walking, forcing myself not to run, knowing federal agents were somewhere nearby. But the fear sat heavy in my stomach. Tomorrow, Max would wear a wire into a potentially dangerous situation. His cooperation could bring down Torino's entire organization, or it could get him killed. And if it went wrong, I had no doubt who they'd come for next. As I entered Rachel's building, I made a decision. After tomorrow, regardless of what happened with Max's wire, I was finding somewhere else to stay. I wouldn't put my best friend in danger any longer. But first, we had to get through the next 24 hours, and hope that my brother's desire for self-preservation was stronger than his history of making catastrophic choices. The federal courthouse in downtown Chicago. It loomed before me like a mountain I'd been climbing for months. Today was the day everything would either come together or fall apart. Max was testifying before the grand jury, and Vincent Torino's entire organization was about to face justice. Jonathan Sterling stood beside me on the courthouse steps, his presence a steady comfort. Remember, you don't have to watch the testimony, he said. You can wait in the witness room. No, I said firmly. I need to see this through. 6 months had passed since that terrifying day Max wore a wire to meet his lawyer. The recording was devastating proof that the lawyer was indeed feeding information to Torino's organization. The FBI used it to flip him. And like dominoes, others in the organization started cooperating to save themselves. Inside the courthouse, Agent Morrison met us at security. Your brother's in protective custody, she informed us. He'll testify via closed-circuit video for his safety. Is he really in that much danger? I asked. 3 of Torino's associates have already pled guilty and provided information about planned retaliation, she said. So, yes, the danger is real. We made our way to a secured viewing room. My parents were already there, in the front row. Mom had lost weight, her face gaunt. Dad looked like he'd aged a decade. They turned, hope flickering in their eyes, but I chose a seat several rows behind them. The gulf between us felt appropriate. The prosecutor, Catherine Walsh, a sharp woman, began establishing Max's credentials. On the screen, my brother looked different. Prison had stripped away his cockiness, leaving someone hollow-eyed and remorseful. Mr. Reynolds, Walsh began. Please tell the grand jury how you first became involved with Vincent Torino's organization. Max's testimony was devastating in its detail. He explained the progression: sports betting to underground poker, borrowing money to selling information. He named names, provided dates, described meetings in warehouses and parking garages. The data theft from Henderson Financial, Walsh prompted. Tell us about that. It started small, Max said, his voice cracking. Just a few names and social security numbers to reduce my debt. But they kept wanting more. Anthony Torino said I could clear my entire debt with one big score. What was the big score? The entire private client database. Over 10,000 high-net-worth individuals with complete financial profiles. Gasps echoed through the viewing room. Even I hadn't known the full scope. Did you provide this information? No. That's when I started recording conversations. I knew I was in too deep, but I thought if I had leverage. You thought you could blackmail them? Walsh finished. I thought I could protect myself, Max said, looking directly at the camera. I was wrong. They found out about the recordings and threatened my family. That's when I went to my father for help. The testimony continued for 3 excruciating hours. Max detailed Torino's organization, the money laundering, the connections to other crime families. He produced documents, identified voices, laid bare an enterprise that had operated for over a decade. When Walsh asked about the impact on his family, Max broke down completely. I destroyed everything, he sobbed. My sister lost her medical school fund because of me. My parents lost their home, their retirement, their reputation. I took a family that loved me and tore it apart for money I threw away on stupid bets. Do you take responsibility for your actions? Walsh asked. Yes. All of it. I'm a thief, a liar, and I betrayed everyone who ever cared about me. Almeida worked 3 jobs to save for school while I was stealing from innocent people. She's everything I should have been. I found myself crying, despite my anger. My mother turned, reaching for me, but I shook my head. This wasn't about forgiveness right now. It was about truth. Then came the biggest revelation. Max had actually won $500,000 6 months before taking my college fund. But instead of paying his debts, he'd lost it all, chasing an even bigger score. You could have walked away, Walsh stated. I know. God, I know, Max cried. But I was sick. Addicted. I convinced myself the next bet would set me up for life. Meanwhile, your family was preparing to sacrifice everything for debts you could have paid. Walsh concluded. Yes, Max choked out. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. When court recessed, I stepped into the hallway for air. Jonathan found me leaning against a window, staring at the Chicago skyline. How are you holding up? He asked. He had $500,000. I said numbly. He could have paid everything and had money left over. Addiction isn't logical, Almeida. It's a sickness. I know, I said, but knowing doesn't make it hurt less. Agent Morrison approached us. Torino's lawyer is negotiating a plea deal. Between Max's testimony and the others who flipped, he's looking at 25 to life. He'll take a deal. So, the criminal case is really over? I asked. Yes. But there's something else. She handed me an envelope. The asset forfeiture from Torino's organization has been approved. Victims' compensation will begin next month. My hands trembled as I opened it. The number at the bottom made me gasp. $650,000. RICO allows for treble damages. Morrison explained. Your initial loss times 3, plus interest. I can go to medical school. I whispered. I can actually go. Jonathan smiled. Columbia's holding your spot. I spoke to admissions last week. The afternoon brought more testimony, including my parents taking the stand. They corroborated Max's timeline, admitted to enabling his addiction, ignoring warning signs, choosing the path of least resistance. During a break, I encountered my father in the hallway. He looked at me, red-rimmed eyes full of pain. I know you hate us, he said quietly. And you have every right to. But I want you to know I'm proud of you. For standing up to us. For refusing to enable the sickness that consumed our family. I don't hate you, Dad, I said. I hate what you did. There's a difference. Is there any chance, any possibility that someday you might forgive us? I considered it. I don't know. Maybe. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean we go back to being a family. I understand. Do you? He asked. Because Mom still texts me every day, asking when I'm coming home. She's struggling to accept reality. We're in therapy now. He continued, trying to understand how we became people who would steal from one child to save another. Are you learning anything? I asked. He smiled sadly. That we mistook enabling for love. That we were so afraid of losing Max, that we lost you instead. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their actions. Yeah, I said. Well, better late than never, I guess. We stood in awkward silence until he spoke again. The house sold. After the mortgage and legal fees, there wasn't much left. But I set aside something. He pulled out a check. $5,000. It's yours. No strings, no expectations. Just something toward your future. I stared at the check. $5,000. A fraction of what they'd taken, but somehow, symbolically, it meant everything. This is from your personal account? I asked. Yes. Money I earned doing overtime at the plant. Your mother doesn't even know about it. I pocketed the check. Thank you, Almeida, he said. Dad, we're not there yet. Maybe we never will be. But this is a start. The final testimony came from Vincent Torino himself. He'd taken a plea deal, 20 years in federal prison, forfeiture of all assets, and full cooperation. Watching him on the screen, this man who had terrorized my family, I expected satisfaction. Instead, I felt empty. He was just another criminal preying on weaknesses. Max's weakness opened the door, but Torino walked through it eagerly. As proceedings ended, Catherine Walsh approached me. Miss Reynolds, I wanted to personally thank you. Your courage in coming forward started this entire investigation. I just wanted my money back. I said. You got much more than that. 14 members of a major crime syndicate are going to prison. Hundreds of identity theft victims will receive compensation. Your brother's testimony is the cornerstone of all of it. That evening, Jonathan and I had dinner at a quiet restaurant. We'd become friends, bonded by this strange journey for justice. So, what now? He asked. Medical school in the fall. That's the plan. I raised my wine glass. Thank you for everything. You're the one who did the hard work, he said. Facing your family, testifying, refusing to back down, even when they threatened you. Anthony Torino? Arrested in Miami, trying to flee. Behind bars. Relief washed over me. There's something else, Jonathan said, producing an envelope. This came to my office. It's addressed to you. Max's handwriting. Inside, a single page. Almeida, I know a letter can't undo what I've done. I stole your future because I was too weak to face my own failures. You worked for everything while I looked for shortcuts. You saved while I squandered. You built while I destroyed. I'm going to prison for a long time. I've accepted that. What I can't accept is that you might not achieve your dreams because of me. So I'm giving you the only thing I have left, my testimony and full cooperation to ensure you receive every penny owed to you. I don't ask for forgiveness. I haven't earned it. But I want you to know that watching you fight for your future when I tried to steal it has taught me more about strength than anything else in my life. Become the Dr. Grandma Eleanor knew you could be. Save lives, help people. Be everything I failed to be. Your brother who doesn't deserve the title, Max. I folded the letter carefully, tears blurring my vision. He actually gets it. Growth often comes from our lowest moments, Jonathan observed. Do you think he'll be okay in prison? He's in protective custody. With his cooperation, he'll likely serve in a minimum security facility, with access to education, therapy, addiction counseling. If he truly wants to change, he'll have the opportunity. As we finished dinner, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought me here. Betrayal had shattered my family and stolen my dreams. But in fighting back, I'd found strength I didn't know I had. I'd learned to stand up for myself, to refuse to be collateral damage in someone else's destruction. The money would come soon. Medical school would follow. But the real victory wasn't financial. It was the knowledge that when everything fell apart, I didn't break. I rebuilt. And that was worth more than any college fund. 6 months later, I stood in front of the mirror in my new studio apartment, carefully adjusting the crisp white coat that bore my name, Almeida Reynolds, medical student. The embroidered letters still felt surreal, even 3 weeks into my first semester at Columbia. Morning sun streamed through windows overlooking the Hudson River, a view I'd never imagined I could afford. But the Victim Compensation Fund, and a settlement from Henderson Financial's insurance, had come through. After setting aside money for all 4 years of med school, I'd invested the rest conservatively, on Jonathan's advice. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Today's the day. Knock 'em dead at your presentation." I smiled, grateful for her unwavering support. She'd moved to Manhattan too, landing a job at a major marketing firm. Sunday dinners with Rachel became my anchor in this new life. The presentation was for my medical ethics class. It felt strange, turning my family's destruction into an academic case study, but my story had already helped shape new policies at financial institutions regarding employee monitoring and client data protection. As I gathered my materials, my laptop chimed with a video call. I hesitated. Monthly calls with my parents had become routine, though they remained strained. "Hi, honey!" My mother's face appeared on screen. She looked healthier than during the trial, though a lingering sadness remained. "You look wonderful in your coat." "Thanks, Mom." Dad joined her, sitting in their small apartment's kitchen, with the same mismatched furniture they'd salvaged after losing the house. "Big presentation today?" "Yes, Professor Williams thinks it could be published in a medical ethics journal." "That's wonderful," Mom said, then hesitated. "We have some news." My stomach tensed. News from them rarely meant anything good. "We heard from Max yesterday," Dad continued. "He's completed his addiction counseling certification. He's going to start leading group sessions for other inmates." "That's good," I managed. Max was serving 7 years, reduced from 20 due to his cooperation. He wrote letters I didn't answer, sent drawings I didn't acknowledge. Maybe someday I'd be ready to engage with him again. Not yet. "He also wanted us to tell you something," Mom said carefully. "The educational program he's in? He's teaching financial literacy to other inmates. He calls it Eleanor's Fund, after your grandmother." Something twisted in my chest. He named it after Grandma. "He says every class starts with her story. How she saved carefully her whole life to give her granddaughter a future. How he stole that future and destroyed his family. He uses it to teach about the real costs of financial crimes." I didn't know how to respond. Grandma would have appreciated the gesture, even while disapproving of the circumstances that created it. "We should let you go," my father said, recognizing my discomfort. "Good luck with your presentation." "Thanks." My mother's voice caught. "We love you always." "I know," I said. It was all I could offer. After ending the call, I took a moment to center myself. On my desk, a framed photo of Grandma Eleanor at my high school graduation. Beside it, the laminated, precious letter she'd hidden for me. "I'm doing it, Grandma," I whispered. "Just like you wanted." The presentation went better than expected. I stood before 200 medical students and faculty, telling my story without flinching. How financial desperation could corrupt families. How addiction could hide behind success. How healthcare professionals needed to recognize these patterns in their patients. "Medical debt is the leading cause of bankruptcy in America," I explained, clicking through slides Jonathan had helped me prepare. When people face financial ruin due to medical bills, they become vulnerable to the same predators who targeted my family. As future physicians, we have a responsibility to understand not just the physical health of our patients, but their financial health, too. Professor Williams nodded approvingly. In the back, I spotted Catherine Walsh, the prosecutor for Max's case. During the Q&A, a student asked, "How do you forgive family members who betray you like that?" The question I'd been dreading. "I don't know that I have forgiven them," I admitted. "Forgiveness isn't a switch you flip. It's a process, and I'm still in it. What I've learned is that you can love someone while maintaining boundaries. You can want them to heal, while protecting yourself from further harm." Another student raised her hand. "Do you regret turning your family in?" "No," I said firmly. "Staying silent would have made me complicit. By speaking up, I not only reclaimed my future, but potentially saved hundreds of others from identity theft. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior." After the presentation, Catherine Walsh approached me. "That was powerful, Almeida. You've come a long way from that scared young woman in the federal building." "I had good teachers," I replied. "How's the case progressing?" "Torino's organization is completely dismantled. We've recovered over $30 million in stolen assets. Your brother's testimony was instrumental, and he's safe as anyone can be in federal prison. His cooperation bought him protection and respect from the authorities, if not from other inmates." She handed me her card. "If you're ever interested in forensic medicine or working with financial crime victims, call me. We could use someone with your unique perspective." That evening, I attended a gathering Jonathan had organized for victims of Torino's crimes. It was strange, being in a room full of people whose lives had been touched by my brother's actions. Some knew my connection, and others didn't. But we all shared the bond of survival. "I want to make an announcement," Jonathan said, raising his glass. "Thanks to the collective efforts of everyone in this room, we've established the Financial Crime Victims Education Fund." Applause filled the room. An older gentleman approached me afterward. "You're Max's sister, aren't you?" I tensed. "Yes. My identity was one of those stolen from Henderson Financial. For months, I blamed your brother entirely. But hearing your story, understanding the web of addiction and crime that trapped your whole family, it helped me find peace." "I'm glad," I said, meaning it. "Is it true he's teaching financial literacy in prison?" "Apparently, yes." The man smiled sadly. "Good. Maybe some good can come from all this pain." As the evening wound down, Jonathan joined me on a balcony overlooking the city. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About what?" "All of it. Coming forward, the investigation, testifying against your family." I considered the question. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my parents chose enabling over intervention. I regret that Max's addiction caused so many people so much pain. But no, I don't regret my choices. And medical school? Living up to expectations? It's hard," I admitted. "Some days I feel like I'm carrying not just my dreams, but my grandmother's, and all the people who helped me get here. But then I work with patients at the clinic, and I remember why I wanted this. To help. To heal. To be someone people can trust with their lives." "Your grandmother would be proud," he said. "I hope so." My phone buzzed. "Rachel. Sunday dinner, that new Thai place?" I smiled and responded. "Wouldn't miss it." Life had found a rhythm. Classes, studying, clinical rotations. Sunday dinners with Rachel. Monthly video calls with my parents. Occasional meetings with former victims, finding their own paths forward. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but perhaps it was richer for its complexity. 2 weeks later, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a leather journal and a note in Max's handwriting. "For your future patients' stories. May they all have better endings than mine." I ran my fingers over the smooth leather, debating whether to keep it. In the end, I placed it on my bookshelf. Not forgiveness. Not yet. but acknowledgement that people could change, could grow, could find purpose even in their failures. That night, I wrote the first entry. Today, a patient asked me why I became a doctor. I told her it was because I learned that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about understanding how money, addiction, family, and choices intersect to create both illness and recovery. She said that sounded like wisdom earned through pain. She wasn't wrong. As winter settled over New York, I prepared for my first set of medical school finals. The material was challenging but manageable. After everything I'd overcome, molecular biology and anatomy seemed almost simple. One evening, studying in the library, I overheard two classmates discussing their financial struggles. "I might have to drop out," one said. "My dad lost his job, and the loans aren't enough." "Have you talked to financial aid?" the other asked. "They can't do anything more." I closed my textbook and approached them. "Excuse me," I couldn't help overhearing. "There's a new fund for students facing financial hardship due to family circumstances. Can I give you the information?" Hope bloomed on the student's face. "Really? I hadn't heard about it." I pulled out Catherine Walsh's card and wrote down the fund information. "They helped me when my family's situation imploded. They might be able to help you, too." As I walked back to my apartment that night, snow beginning to fall, I thought about the strange journey that had brought me here. From that horrible moment in my childhood bedroom, when my parents announced they'd stolen my future, to standing in a courtroom, watching justice be served, to wearing a white coat and helping others navigate their own crises. The money had been recovered. The criminals were in prison. The wounds were slowly healing. But the most valuable thing I'd gained wasn't financial. It was the knowledge that I could survive betrayal, fight for justice, and still choose compassion. My phone rang. "Jonathan." "Bad time?" he asked. "Just walking home." "What's up?" "I have a student who needs help. Family members stole their identity, racked up massive debt." "Sound familiar?" "Unfortunately, yes." "Send them my information. I'll meet with them this weekend." "You sure? Your finals are coming up. Some things are more important than exams. Eleanor would be proud of you, you know." I smiled, snowflakes catching on my eyelashes. "I know." As I reached my building, I turned back to look at the city lights. Somewhere across town, my parents were probably having dinner in their small kitchen, finding their own path to redemption. Somewhere in a federal prison, my brother was teaching other inmates about financial responsibility. And somewhere in Chicago, Patricia Holbrook was probably helping another young person open their first savings account. We were all different people than we'd been 2 years ago. Broken and rebuilt. Scarred, but stronger. A family destroyed by greed and addiction. Finding separate paths to healing. I thought about that question my classmate had asked during my presentation: "How do you forgive?" Maybe the answer was that you don't have to forgive to move forward. Maybe it was enough to transform pain into purpose, betrayal into boundaries, loss into the determination to help others avoid the same fate. My phone buzzed one more time. A notification from the bank. The final payment from the Victim Compensation Fund had been deposited. The last financial tie to that dark chapter of my life. I deleted the notification and climbed the stairs to my apartment. Tomorrow brought more classes, more patients, more opportunities to build the future my grandmother had envisioned. Not despite what happened, but because of how I'd chosen to respond to it. In my apartment, I opened the leather journal Max had sent and wrote one more line. Today, I chose to see my scars not as wounds, but as proof of survival. Tomorrow, I'll teach others to do the same. The story I've shared with you is deeply personal, but it could be anyone's. Family betrayal, financial crime, and the struggle to reclaim a stolen future affect thousands of people every day. If you've faced similar challenges, know that you're not alone. Your dreams matter. Your future is worth fighting for. And sometimes, the family you choose, the mentors, friends, and advocates who support your journey, can heal wounds the family you're born into created. I'm curious, what would you have done in my situation? Or have you ever faced a betrayal that forced you to completely redefine your path? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and take care.